Last week, I got married, and I didn't invite a single blood relative. Not my parents, not my siblings, not a cousin, not even a pity text to keep the peace. And you know what? I didn't feel a damn bit of guilt. But let me back up a bit. This story didn't start with a wedding. It started with years of being invisible in my own family. A year ago, if you'd told me I'd end up cutting off everyone I shared DNA with, I would have said you were nuts. I mean, yeah, my family was cold sometimes, distant, but I figured that's just how some families are, right? Until you realize it's not distance, it's exclusion. Straight up, intentional erasure. Growing up, I wasn't the rebel or the screw-up, I was just different. While my brother Dylan was the golden boy quarterback and my sister Brooke was prom queen with a 4.0, I was the quiet kid who read about astrophysics, built weird little robots in the garage, and stayed up late watching old documentaries instead of trash TV. Apparently, that made me less lovable. I never thought I'd say this, but being the quiet good kid makes it really easy for people to pretend you're not there. Flashback to Dylan's wedding 5 years ago. I found out on Facebook, no, seriously, there was this blurry group photo, Dylan in a tux, my parents beaming, Brooke holding a mimosa with a caption that said, "Family is everything." Except apparently, family didn't include me. No invite, no text, not even a "hey, sorry we couldn't squeeze you in." I stared at that photo for so long. I thought my phone would melt. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just sat there like someone had yanked the air out of the room. And when I showed my mom the post later, she goes, "Well, you're not great with crowds. Honey, we figured it was for the best." For the best. As if Dylan's wedding was a trip to IKEA I wasn't going to enjoy. Then came Brooke's wedding, 2 years later. This time they had the audacity to tell me I wasn't invited to my face. I remember it like a glitchy video burned into my brain. We were having coffee, just the two of us. She smiled that fake pageant-level smile and goes, "Ethan, I just feel like you wouldn't be comfortable. It's going to be loud and busy, and I don't want you to feel out of place." Translation: You're the family embarrassment, and I don't want you ruining my aesthetic. I was so stunned I actually thanked her, like an idiot. She hugged me like she was doing me a favor. "I'll send you pics," she said, like I was some pen pal in Alaska. And when I told my dad, he shrugged and said, "Her wedding, her rules." Cool, thanks, Rick. Fast forward to about 8 months ago. I still tried, like a dumbass. I showed up to Dylan's housewarming with a smile and a $100 gift card, thinking maybe if I just kept showing up, they'd get the message, "Hey, I'm trying here." Spoiler alert, they didn't get the message. Or worse, they did and just didn't care. I stood outside their brand new house ringing the bell like some delivery guy. When Dylan opened the door, his face said it all. "Oh, it's you." Inside, the place was packed. People laughing, grilling, sipping wine on the patio. I recognized most of them, people I grew up with. But to them, I was background noise. I tried to make conversation, swear I did, but every time I opened my mouth, it felt like I'd walked into a scene I wasn't cast for. The kicker, I was standing near the fire pit, alone, when I heard Brooke drunk, of course, yell across the yard, "Well, at least Ethan didn't ruin anything today, that's a new record." Everyone laughed, like a punchline I never agreed to be. I remember looking at the plastic cup in my hand and realizing I'd been squeezing it so hard, it was cracking. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything, I just left. Quiet, unnoticed, like I'd learned to do. I deleted the family group chat that night. Then came Maya. God, Maya. She was everything my family wasn't: warm, interested, supportive in a way I didn't think was real. She'd ask about my work and actually listen. She laughed at my space jokes. She watched Carl Sagan reruns with me. She didn't treat my silence like it needed fixing. We were just us. When I proposed, she said yes like she'd been waiting to say it her whole life. And when we started planning the wedding, she asked, gently, "Do you want to invite your family?" I paused for maybe 10 seconds. Then I said, "No, I don't." I thought that would be the end of it. Just a quiet wedding, no drama, no passive-aggressive toasts from people who never gave a damn about me. But small towns talk. A week after we sent out the invites, all 34 of them, my mom texted, "Not congratulations or I'm happy for you. Just, when are you sending our invitations?" Like it was just a scheduling oversight. I stared at the message for so long I got that weird phantom vibration in my leg. And I wrote back, "There's no invitation. Not I'm sorry, not maybe next time. Just truth. Plain, final." And that's when all hell broke loose. When I say the group chat exploded, I mean it imploded. Within 2 hours, I had texts from my dad, Brooke, Dylan, and my mom, like they were on some kind of synchronized tantrum relay. "Dad, you're punishing us over some imaginary grudge, grow up. Ethan, Brooke, wow, you really are the drama. Enjoy your pity wedding. Dylan, in classic form, just sent, karma's a bitch. You'll regret this." And a middle finger emoji. Nice. But the crown jewel, my mom's message. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Don't forget who loved you first." I actually laughed, out loud, sitting on the couch with Maya, who just blinked at me and went, "What now?" I handed her the phone. She read through the messages, slowly, like they were written in a foreign language. Then she put the phone down and said, "You know you don't have to respond, right?" I nodded, but in my head, I was already having fake arguments with all of them. I imagined texting my dad, "Oh, now you care." Imagined telling Brooke, "Funny how you excluded me from yours, but suddenly mine's a family reunion." I even thought about posting a meme, one of those guess who's not invited with the Uno reverse card. But I didn't even text back. I did the one thing they hated more than anything. I ignored them, which, in hindsight, may have lit the match. 3 days later, Brooke posts a vague status on Facebook. "Funny how some people forget their roots when they're too busy playing victim. Hope your little party's cute." Comments from her friends, all vague too. "OMG spill, some people need therapy, not weddings. Glad you see through the BS." I said nothing, but someone from our high school did comment. "Didn't you leave him out of yours, though?" Silence. No reply. Just her deleting comments and turning her post private. Then Dylan posted a story on Instagram, a moody black and white shot of him lifting weights with the caption, "People fold when you stop carrying them." Insert eye roll here, but whatever. I was past it. Maya and I were focused on things that actually mattered, planning a day that reflected us, people who showed up, who listened, who didn't treat love like it was conditional. We booked a little vineyard outside town, not bougie, just rustic and beautiful, like something out of a slow-burn movie, and it felt right. Every guest on the list, someone who made us feel seen, friends, mentors, our barista who once let me cry into my espresso during a rough week, that kind of crowd. No one asked, "Where's your family?" And if they thought it, they were kind enough to shut up about it. Then came last Wednesday. I was working from home, coding in my sweats. Maya was humming in the kitchen, making her weird but amazing chai latte spice cookies. It was chill, quiet. Until the knock. Not a polite knock, not the Amazon tap-tap. It was loud, heavy, like someone meant business. I froze. Maya peeped over the counter and whispered, "Expecting someone." I shook my head and headed to the door, already feeling that stomach drop sensation. Looked through the peephole and nearly laughed from the sheer absurdity. There they were, all 4 of them, standing shoulder to shoulder like some twisted family portrait. Mom holding a casserole dish like it was a damn peace offering. Dad, arms crossed, already scowling. Brooke in her usual oversized sunglasses, chewing gum like she was starring in a bad reality show. Dylan on his phone, barely looking up. I didn't open the door, just cracked the window and said, "What do you want?" My mom gave me this bright, terrifyingly fake smile. "Sweetheart," she said, "we just wanted to talk." I swear to God. The tone was the same one she used when she was pissed, but trying to keep it together in front of church people. "We figured maybe you were just overwhelmed. Weddings can be so stressful. So we brought dinner, thought we'd chat as a family." I looked at the casserole dish like it was made of arsenic. "No thanks," I said. "We're good." Then my dad, big, dramatic sigh, stepped closer. "Ethan, enough with this nonsense. You're not shutting us out over some miscommunication. Open the door." I didn't move. Brooke finally chimed in. "You're letting her poison you against your own blood." Maya, bless her, was standing behind me now, completely still but holding my hand like her life depended on it. I took a deep breath and leaned closer to the window. "No one poisoned me," I said. "You did that all on your own." For the first time, Brooke's smirk dropped. Mom blinked like I slapped her. Dylan, bored, muttered, "Dude, grow up. You didn't invite me to any of your weddings." I said, voice flat, "You didn't want me at holidays. You've made it very clear where I stand." Mom stepped forward, voice cracking just enough to be performative. "You're not this cold. You're not this cruel." I stared at her. "You sure about that?" Then I closed the window. Gently, no drama. Silence. For like 5 seconds. Then the banging started. Hard. Fists against the door. Yelling. Dad shouting, "You're gonna regret this." Brooke calling me ungrateful. Dylan shouting stuff I couldn't even make out, something about me being a loser and always playing the victim. Maya whispered, "Should we call the cops?" I nodded. "Yeah, now." She darted for her phone. I stood my ground. They kept pounding. I kept breathing. It was like all the times I'd been quiet, all the Thanksgivings I'd swallowed tears, all the birthdays I'd sat through alone while they played perfect family had prepared me for this. For the moment I finally didn't break, the sirens were the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. They stopped mid-yell the second they heard them. Mom snatched the damn casserole dish like that was gonna make this normal. Dad barked something about act casual. Dylan put his phone in his pocket. Brooke adjusted her hair. I opened the door after the cops arrived. 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female, professional, tired, like they'd seen a million scenes like this in suburbia. "Everything okay here?" the woman asked. Before I could answer, my mom launched into her Oscar-worthy monologue. "We're just trying to talk to our son," she sobbed. "He's marrying this woman who's twisted him against us, and now he won't even speak to us. We're family. We deserve a conversation." The officer just blinked at her. "So, you were trying to force entry?" Dad puffed up. "We have a right to see him. He's our son." "No, sir," the officer said. "He's an adult, and unless he invites you in, you're trespassing." Mom's face dropped like a bad souffle. Brooke actually looked around like she couldn't believe this was happening. And me, I took a breath and said, clear and calm, "I'd like to press charges. Trespassing, and I want a restraining order." You could have heard a pin drop. The silence. Delicious. We filed everything that day. Officers took statements. Maya held my hand the entire time. And when we got home, I sat down, cracked open a cheap beer, and whispered to her, "Well, that happened." She just smiled and said, "You okay?" And for the first time in my life, I actually meant it when I said, "Yeah, I think I am." The next morning, my phone basically committed suicide. 38 missed calls, 17 voicemails, and texts. Holy shit, the texts. One of the first notifications that popped up was from Brooke's old college roommate. We hadn't talked in years. She just sent a TikTok link and a popcorn emoji. I clicked it, and there it was. A Ring camera recording. My Ring camera. It had captured the whole doorstep circus, Mom with the casserole, Dad yelling, Dylan's dumbass commentary, Brooke looking like she was waiting for her makeup tutorial to start, the audio crystal clear. The caption. It had over 600K views, and counting. The comments brutal. Shout out to the real MVP, that casserole dish. Imagine being so toxic your own kid gets a restraining order on you. Bet they still think they're the victims. He said no and meant it. Good for him. Honestly, I almost felt bad for them. Almost, but then I remembered everything. Every missed birthday, every backhanded comment, every time I'd tried to reconnect only to be treated like a burden they forgot they gave birth to. So, no, I didn't feel bad. I felt free and a little amused, because guess what? By lunchtime, the video hit 1 million views. And someone from the local news station DM'd me. Would you be open to sharing your story about family boundaries? You're not alone. By the time Maya and I got home from the grocery store, it was trending on Twitter. Brooke tried to go damage control mode by posting a Notes app apology, the kind of apology that's not actually an apology. We just wanted to be there for a big moment. Maybe we didn't handle it well, but family is complicated. I love my brother even if he doesn't love us back. Manipulative as hell. Of course, people dragged her in the comments. Girl, you left him out of your wedding. You weren't there for any big moments. Suddenly you want credit. The gaslight is strong with this one. I didn't post anything. Didn't need to. The internet did what the internet does, exposed, roasted, memed the situation to death. Someone even made a TikTok remix of my dad yelling, "You'll regret this auto-tuned over lo-fi beats." I should have been humiliated. But instead, I was on the porch with Maya, sipping coffee and watching birds mess with our garden, while the world finally saw what I'd been dealing with for years. 2 days later, the shift happened. The calls didn't stop, but they changed tone. First voicemail that morning was from Mom, voice all shaky. I don't understand how you could do this to us. You made us look like monsters. No acknowledgement of what they did. Just outrage that someone finally saw them clearly. Then came Dad. This isn't over. You think a little restraining order means you've won. Grow up. Ethan, you'll need us one day. Charming. Brooke sent a string of texts. This is cyberbullying. I could sue you for emotional distress. I hope you're happy being a TikTok punchline. And Dylan, because of course Dylan left me a voicemail that was just a long sigh and the words, "You think this makes you strong? You're pathetic." I blocked all of them, every number, every email, even turned off DMs on Instagram for a bit. But then something kind of amazing happened. People started messaging me, not trolls, not drama vultures. Real people, strangers, dozens of them. I went through the same thing. Thank you for setting that boundary. Your story made me finally tell my mom no for the first time in years. My sister hasn't spoken to me since I skipped her wedding because she never invited me. Your post made me feel seen. It was surreal. I wasn't trying to start a movement, I just didn't open the door. And somehow, that hit a nerve across the internet. Then Maya's cousin, who works in podcasting, reached out. "Hey, I know this sounds crazy," she said, "but people are talking about your story. You should come on the show, not for revenge, but to talk about chosen family. People need to hear it." I hesitated. But Maya just squeezed my hand and whispered, "You've got a voice, use it." So I said yes. We recorded it the next week, a simple conversation. No trashing, no tea spilling for clout, just the story. My story, about learning the difference between love and obligation. about building peace with people who show up. It went live that Friday. Within hours, it cracked the top 20 on Apple Podcasts. By Sunday, over 100,000 plays. But what hit me the hardest? A message I got from an account called Janet in 1947. It was from my old neighbor. Janet, 70-something, half-deaf, makes cookies that could kill a diabetic in one bite. She wrote, "Ethan, I always thought they treated you unfairly. I'm sorry I never said anything. I'm proud of you. Come by sometime. The garden's blooming again." That message wrecked me, not because it was dramatic, but because it was quiet truth. Someone saw, someone knew, and that was enough. Meanwhile, my family, they went full denial. Brooke posted a picture with a caption like, "Surround yourself with real love." Dylan went silent on socials, probably hoping this would blow over. Mom posted a blurry photo of us from when I was maybe 7, me holding a pumpkin, caption, "He'll always be my little boy, barf." But the comments full of strangers calling them out, calling me brave, and still not one real apology. Not one moment of reflection, just performative pain. A week later, I got a letter, an actual, honest-to-God handwritten letter. From my dad. It said, "I don't know how we got here. Maybe you're right. Maybe we failed. But this public circus, you made us a joke. You embarrassed your mother. You shamed your family. I hope it was worth it." I read it twice. And then I burned it, not out of rage, not some dramatic torch in the backyard moment. Just done, ashes in the sink, rinse, drain, gone. That night, Maya and I sat on the couch, lights off, eating pizza and watching dumb 2000s rom-coms. Her feet were on my lap, my arm around her, and I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Not performative peace. Not the kind where you smile for the photo and scream in the car later. Real, still boring peace. The kind where nothing hurts, where the silence doesn't feel like rejection. The kind of peace you earn. Maya looked up at me and said, "You okay?" I nodded. I didn't think I would be, but yeah, I am. Then I smiled, because for the first time in my entire life, I wasn't chasing their approval. I wasn't waiting to be chosen. I had chosen myself. And that more than a viral post or a restraining order or a burned casserole was the real revenge. It's weird what happens when the noise stops. The texts die down. The voicemails go silent. Your phone stops vibrating like it's possessed. And for a second, you don't know what to do with the stillness. That first quiet Sunday after the storm, I sat on the porch alone with a cup of coffee, just watching the wind mess with our wind chimes. Maya was still asleep, curled up like a cat under our thrifted quilt, and I was just there. No anger, no dread, just breathing air that didn't feel heavy for once. It was like walking through your house after a long party, seeing the cups, the crumbs, the furniture out of place, but nobody yelling anymore, just mess, but yours. Yours to clean up. A few days later, we hosted our first non-family dinner. I didn't plan it. It just sort of happened. Maya invited her coworker. I invited our neighbors, and suddenly we had 10 people around our janky outdoor table, passing wine and laughing like we hadn't all just lived through the weirdest version of Family Feud ever broadcast to TikTok. And I don't know what hit me harder, the normalcy of it or the way nobody asked why we didn't invite blood relatives. They just came, talked about cats and houseplants and favorite pizza places. And when someone made a toast, just a dumb little cheers to new beginnings thing, Maya leaned over and whispered, "This is your family now." And God, I almost cried into my potato salad. Because she was right. A few weeks later, I got another letter. But this time it wasn't from my dad. It was from my cousin Joel, who I hadn't seen since we were teenagers. He'd seen the video, saw the podcast, sent a 4-page handwritten note saying how sorry he was for never speaking up when I was younger, how he saw how our grandparents treated me like an afterthought, how his mom, my aunt, used to joke that I was the family ghost. He wrote, "I should have reached out years ago, but I was scared to be the next target. I guess I still am. But seeing you stand up, that meant something. I sat in my car for an hour after reading that, just staring at the dashboard. Not mad, not even sad, just seen." Because all those years, I thought maybe I imagined it, that maybe I was just too sensitive or too awkward or not lovable enough. But I wasn't crazy. And Joel's letter proved it. Maya said something one night that stuck with me. We were folding laundry super romantic and she goes, "You know what people don't get about revenge?" I looked up, halfway through a t-shirt. She smiled. It's not always fire and fury. Sometimes it's just living better than they expected. Quieter, happier, on your own terms. I think that's when I really let go of the revenge part. Because I realized this wasn't about punishing them. It was about unlearning them. Unlearning the belief that I needed their approval. Unlearning the guilt they spoon-fed me since I was old enough to feel different. Unlearning that voice in my head that said, "You're only worthy if they say so. Screw that." But it wasn't all Zen candles and forgiveness yoga. There were moments. Little flashbacks that hit when I least expected them. Like the first time Maya and I went to brunch with her parents, both of them smiling, asking me how work was, genuinely caring, and I froze when her dad said, "Proud of you." Because my brain couldn't compute it. That's proud of what me? I laughed awkwardly. Maya gave me a look. I shrugged it off. But in the car on the way home, I just lost it. Not sobbing. Just that quiet kind of breakdown where your chest aches and your throat knots up and you stare out the window like you're in a music video. She pulled over. We didn't talk. She just grabbed my hand and let me sit with it. I didn't even realize how badly I needed permission to be cared for. Not tolerated, not pitied. Just cared for. And then there was Thanksgiving. Our first one as officially married people. We didn't plan to celebrate. Honestly, too many landmines. But Maya's friend Aaron, a chaotic bisexual tornado of joy, texted 2 days before and went, "We're doing orphan Thanksgiving. Bring wine or weird energy, preferably both." We showed up with both. There were maybe 20 people. No one related by blood. Every one of them a survivor of family messiness. It was like a secret society of estranged souls, gathered around turkey and pie, laughing about things their parents would never understand. Someone raised a toast. To the families we choose, and the ones we don't owe shit to. I didn't say anything, just clinked my glass and tried not to cry into my stuffing. Eventually, Christmas came around, and that was the real test. Because no matter how strong you are, the holidays sneak in, you see people with matching pajamas. You hear songs that used to mean something. You drive past houses with lights and wonder if anyone inside would let you in. If you knocked, but this year, we stayed in. Maya baked this weird gingerbread caramel fusion monstrosity. I made hot chocolate with way too much bourbon. We built a blanket fort in the living room like two overgrown kids. And when it hit midnight, we slow danced under fairy lights to some indie cover of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and I whispered, "Thank you for not letting me disappear." She didn't say anything, just kissed me. I think that's what healing feels like. Not big speeches, not dramatic showdowns, just someone choosing you, over and over, quietly, consistently. But the world doesn't stop spinning just because you're okay. A few months after Christmas, I heard through the grapevine that my family was still spiraling. Dad apparently got into a fight with someone at work over internet cancel culture. Brooke tried to spin her way into a podcast interview and got roasted when people found her old tweets calling me emo trash. Dylan got dumped by his girlfriend, who, according to her TikTok, Left because he's the most emotionally constipated man alive. Honestly, it should have been satisfying. But it just made me tired, because I realized I don't care anymore. They can rot in their own consequences. I've got laundry to do, a dog to walk, a wife to kiss. I don't have room in my life for people who only show up when they want control. And the craziest part? I'm not bitter. I thought I'd be walking around waiting to say, I told you so to anyone who'd listen. But I don't need to. My life says it for me. The late-night barbecues, the spontaneous game nights, the dumb inside jokes with friends who became family, the neighbors who wave when they see us, the tiny moments Maya and I collect like treasure-burnt toast, sleepy Sunday cuddles, shared Spotify playlists. That's my victory. That's my healing. The letter showed up in the mailbox like it belonged there. No return address, just my name, handwritten, all neat and familiar. I knew that handwriting, sharp angles, too much pressure on the pen, like the writer was always angry about something. It was from my mom. I didn't open it right away, just stood there on the porch, mail in one hand, coffee in the other, while Maya watered the plants. You okay? She called out. I shrugged. Letter from her. She didn't say anything, just walked over, took my coffee so I wouldn't spill it, and waited while I stood there, paralyzed by a goddamn envelope. Eventually, I opened it, and it wasn't what I expected. No guilt trip, no rage, no you've disgraced the family nonsense. It was almost normal. I don't know how to fix what's broken. I don't even know what I'm asking you for. But I miss you. I miss the version of us that existed before all the weddings and silence and distance. I miss being your mom. She talked about how she'd been going to therapy, first time I'd ever heard her admit she even needed it. She said she watched the podcast interview, cried through it, and finally saw the gap between what she thought she was doing and how it landed. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said sorry. And it wrecked me, because this wasn't some public-facing PR move. This wasn't Facebook pity bait. This was real and quiet. And for the first time since I walked away, it felt like someone on their side finally got it. Maya read the letter after me. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she asked, "So, what do you want to do?" I didn't know. Part of me wanted to ball it up and throw it into the trash. Another part wanted to cry into it like it was a lifeline. And then there was that really messed up part, the scared kid still living in the back of my mind, whispering, maybe this is your shot. Maybe this is how it starts over. But I'd spent too long building peace to let hope bulldoze it. So I did nothing. For 3 days, the letter sat on the kitchen counter. Every time I walked past it, my stomach twisted. Maya didn't push. She didn't even ask again. Just let me wrestle with it. I eventually texted Joel, my cousin. Told him about the letter. Asked him if he ever talked to her. He replied almost instantly. She's different now. Still figuring it out, but she owns her shit more than she used to. That stopped me cold. Because if Joel was saying it, maybe it was true. So I wrote back. Not a big emotional essay, not a movie moment. Just, got your letter. Thanks for saying what you did. I'm not ready to have a conversation yet, but I appreciate it. And I hope therapy is helping. I hit send before I could overthink it. She didn't respond right away, which honestly was probably the best thing she could have done. A week later, Maya and I were walking through the farmer's market. She was obsessing over weird pickles, and I was trying to decide between 2 types of cinnamon rolls. The sun was out. Some kid nearby was playing violin for change, and I felt light, like something unknotted in my chest. I looked over at Maya, sunglasses on, hair all messy from the wind, and just blurted it out. I think I'm okay not going back. She blinked. Back where? To them, even if they apologize, Even if they change, I don't think I need it. She smiled, slow and proud, then don't. And that was that. Not a dramatic declaration. No fireworks, just choice. Mine, but peace doesn't always mean nothing ever hurts. The next day, I was at the grocery store alone when I ran into Dylan. Of course it was in the cereal aisle, because the universe is a troll. He looked tired, thinner, same hoodie he used to wear in college, eyes sunken, like the weight of everything had finally started pushing back. He saw me, stopped dead in his tracks. "Ethan," he said, not aggressive, not fake, just startled. I nodded. "Dylan." Silence stretched between us like barbed wire. He finally said, "I saw the podcast." I didn't say anything. He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. "I've been thinking a lot about stuff, about how we treated you." Still I said nothing. He continued, "It wasn't fair. Any of it. I don't expect you to believe me or forgive me or whatever. I don't know. I wanted you to know I see it now." Then he turned and walked away. Didn't linger. Didn't expect a hug or a scene. And I stood there, holding a box of cereal I suddenly didn't want anymore, blinking way too hard. Because holy shit, that felt real, too. And I didn't hate him for it, but I also didn't chase after him. Later that night, I told Maya about it while we were folding towels. "What would you have said if he stayed?" she asked. I shrugged, probably something stupid, or mean, or too forgiving. She nodded. "Well, you didn't, so maybe that's progress." And yeah, maybe it was. The thing no one tells you about healing. It doesn't come in one big swoop. It's slow, messy. Some days you feel like a warrior. Other days you're just a guy sitting in his car outside therapy crying over a Taylor Swift song. Yes, that happened. Don't judge me. But eventually, the pain stops being so loud. You stop dreaming about the perfect comeback. You stop replaying old scenes trying to edit them in your head. You stop hoping they'll finally say the right thing. You just live. And let them be whoever they're going to be. Over there. Last week, we hosted another dinner. Same backyard, same mismatched chairs, more friends this time. Someone brought a guitar. Someone else brought a dog that peed on the cooler. And when we sat down to eat, Maya raised a toast to the people who show up. Simple, but it hit hard. And as I looked around at our people, our home, our tiny slice of peace, I finally understood what revenge really looks like. It's not anger. It's freedom. 3 nights ago, I had a dream. I was back at my sister's wedding. Not the real one, not the one I was never invited to. This one was some weird hybrid memory stitched together by my brain. Everyone was there. Brooke was laughing, fake and loud, dragging the spotlight like it owed her rent. Dylan was glued to his phone. My mom was setting out name cards with this strained smile, the one she used to wear when pretending everything was fine. And me, I was a waiter. No one looked at me. No one recognized me. I was just filling champagne glasses, listening to them talk about how family always comes first. At some point, I dropped a tray. The crash echoed like a gunshot. Still, no one looked. I woke up sweating, not scared, but hollow. Maya stirred beside me, eyes still closed. "You okay?" she mumbled. "Yeah," I whispered. "Just a ghost dream." She didn't ask for details, just slid her hand across the sheets and found mine. Warm, steady, real. That's all I needed. The next morning, I sat on our porch, coffee in one hand, her foot tucked under my thigh like always, and realized something kind of massive. I'm not mad anymore, not even a little. The anger burned out months ago, quietly, without fanfare, All that remained was this soft, cautious gratitude. Not for the pain screw but for the fact that I made it out. That I survived being unwanted long enough to realize I didn't need to be wanted by the wrong people. That's something no one prepares you for. The day you wake up and realize, you're free. We got a dog. His name's Murphy. He's part husky, part tornado, and entirely too loud for how small he is. Maya found him at a shelter, sent me a picture with the caption, "I think he's chaos. I think he's ours. He's a lot." He chews shoes and chases squirrels and barks at absolutely nothing like it owes him money. But he loves hard, and he's loyal in the way that makes your chest ache. The first time he fell asleep, curled up against my leg, I thought this is the first living creature that's ever made me feel safe without asking me to prove anything. That thought stuck. One afternoon, I was walking Murphy down our street when I passed this older couple getting into their car. The woman smiled at me, real kind. The type that starts in the eyes and said, "That's a beautiful dog." I smiled back. "He's a handful." "Most good things are," she said. That sentence haunted me the rest of the day. Most good things are messy, loud, complicated, full of history and hope and maybe even a little fear. But still good, still worth it. I started volunteering at this local group for adults navigating estrangement, not in a let me tell you how to cut off your parents kind of way, but just showing up, listening, letting people tell their stories out loud. You'd be amazed how healing it is just to be heard. No fixing, no advice. Just, I believe you. That sounds really hard. It started small. A few people in a church basement. Now we've got over 50 members. Weekly meetups, Zoom calls for the ones who moved away. We don't talk about the past so much as how to build futures that don't hurt. That's the kind of revenge I like best now. Not payback. Proof. Proof that life doesn't stop because the people who were supposed to love you couldn't. Sometimes, I think about what would have happened if I'd gone to Brooke's wedding. If I'd put on the suit, played the part, smiled through the pain just to be included, I probably would have sat at a weird corner table, next to some cousin I barely knew, would have watched my family pretend I wasn't there, would have clapped on cue, eaten dry chicken, driven home alone. That version of me doesn't exist anymore, and thank God for that. Our second anniversary was quiet. Just me, Maya, a bottle of wine, and pizza on the deck. Murphy snoring at our feet, stars overhead, the good kind of silence. She raised a slice like a toast and said, "To 2 years of making our own rules." I laughed. "And breaking half of them." Obviously. Then she looked at me, soft and serious. "Do you ever think about them?" I nodded. Sometimes. Still miss them. I thought about it. About the childhood birthdays they forgot. About the awkward Thanksgivings. About the time Dylan told me I sucked the fun out of everything because I wanted to talk about books instead of football. Sometimes, I said, "Does it hurt?" No, I said, "Not anymore. Not really." She didn't ask anything else. Just leaned her head on my shoulder and let the moment stretch. Later that night, I posted something I hadn't shared publicly before. No names, no drama. Just 2 years ago, I uninvited 4 people from my life. I thought I was burning bridges. Turns out, I was lighting the path forward. Some goodbyes aren't cruelty. They're clarity. Choose peace every time. It got more responses than anything I'd ever posted. DMs from strangers. Comments from people who'd quietly watched my story unfold. One message just said, "Thank you, I needed permission." And that hit me hard, because if I had read a message like that 5 years ago, maybe I would have walked away sooner. Maybe I would have saved myself years of trying to be invited. So here I am now. No big drama. No epic courtroom battles. Just a guy who rebuilt his life one soft day at a time. I've got friends who show up without needing reminders, Neighbors who shovel our driveway before I can even get my coat on. Coworkers who leave dumb notes on my monitor that say things like, "Don't forget to exist today." And Maya? Always Maya, the first person who looked at my quiet, anxious heart and didn't flinch. Sometimes we drive past this big house at the edge of town. It's where my parents used to live before they sold it and moved, probably to outrun the whispers. The new owners put in a garden, strung lights across the porch. It doesn't look like the place I grew up in anymore. One day, Maya asked if it made me sad. I told her no, because that house doesn't hold power anymore. It's just a building, 4 walls and old echoes. I don't live there, not anymore. Last month, Joel came to visit. We had beers on the porch, watched Murphy terrorize a tennis ball, and swapped dumb family stories, the kind that would have made our parents furious. He looked at me and said, "You're not the same guy I remember." I raised an eyebrow, in a good way. In the best way. Then he smiled. "You built something better. Most people just keep waiting for the apology." I stopped waiting. I said, "Yeah," he said, "and look what showed up instead." Sometimes revenge is loud, messy, screaming, fireworks. And sometimes it's just living a good life in quiet defiance of everything that tried to convince you you didn't deserve one. It's dancing in your kitchen to bad music. It's saying no without guilt. It's petting your dog and kissing your person and knowing deep down you are finally, actually, okay, that's it. That's the story. Not because everything's perfect, but because I am whole, and for the first time in my life, I know. Asterisk, asterisk, I didn't lose a family. I left one. And I built a better one. Story 2, I hadn't seen my brother in almost 5 years. So when I got the invitation to his product launch, it felt like a glitch or a trap. The message was short, almost like a calendar reminder. "Hey Mason, big night next Friday. You should come. Connor." No, "How have you been?" No, "Sorry I disappeared after building a company off our college project." Just that cold little message, like I was a LinkedIn contact, not his brother. I stared at the screen for 5 minutes, debating whether to respond. I didn't. And yet, I still showed up. It was one of those rooftop venues in downtown Seattle, all glass walls and glowing lights. The skyline behind it looked smug, as if every office window belonged to someone who got it right. People clinked champagne, laughed with that polished kind of confidence. Everyone was dressed like they belonged on a magazine cover. I wore my one decent blazer and still felt like I'd snuck past security. This was Connor's world now. CEO of Luxonic, the man of the hour. And me, I was the guy who had helped him build the damn thing. Only nobody here seemed to know that. We started Luxonic together back in college. Well, what became Luxonic? Back then, it was just 2 sleepless nerds writing code in a basement, living off instant noodles, pitching an idea nobody wanted to hear. Connor was always better at talking. I was better at building. He pitched. I coded. And when the prototype worked, we both cheered like idiots. We called it a win for both of us. Then senior year, my dad got sick. I had to move home to help with bills. I sold my gaming setup and even borrowed against my scholarship to keep our little project alive. Connor promised we'd figure it out together. Instead, he found investors, changed the name, registered the company without me, and disappeared. I stayed quiet. Not because I wasn't angry, but because I thought maybe he'd come back around. Maybe once the company got big enough, he'd call and say, "Hey, Mason, I couldn't have done it without you." But that call never came, until this invitation. I stood near the railing, holding a lukewarm soda, trying to decide whether to leave before the speeches started. That's when my mom's voice echoed behind me. "Mason." She wasn't smiling, just surprised. I turned to see her and Dad walking up. Dad looked thinner since the last time I saw him, but his eyes still had that spark. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Me neither." Before we could say more, the lights shifted. A hush moved over the crowd. Connor stepped onto the stage, holding a glass of champagne like he was born to do it. My stomach twisted. "Thank you all for coming," he said, his voice smooth, practiced. "Tonight is a celebration of vision, of hard work, of building something that matters." He thanked investors, partners, even mentioned his college mentors. No mention of me, not even a shout out to the early days. Then, right before his final toast, he scanned the crowd and locked eyes with me, just for a second. Then he smiled and said, "Some people said this idea would never work. Some of them were in my own family." The audience chuckled, but here we are. Right, guess the real visionaries know when to stop dreaming and start building. Laughter, applause. My mom clapped, my dad didn't. I stood frozen. That joke, it wasn't a joke. It was aimed straight at me. Connor knew exactly what he was doing. And suddenly, every moment came back. The code we wrote on my laptop. The nights I skipped meals to finish the prototype. The $10,000 I gave him when he said we needed just a little more runway. And now I was a punchline at his party. I don't know what came over me, but I moved. Right through the crowd, up toward the stage. I didn't plan it. Didn't write a speech, but something in me snapped. Connor was still basking in applause when I stepped up beside him and took the mic. "Connor's right," I said. My voice shook for a second, but I didn't stop. Some people thought this idea wouldn't work. Silence. But they weren't just critics, they were co-creators, developers, partners. I paused, looked him dead in the eyes. They were the ones who built the original prototype, who loaned their college savings, who were promised equity then cut out. Gasps. A few people lowered their glasses. Connor's smile cracked. "Mason, that's enough." "I'm not done," I said, holding up my phone. "I still have the original repo logs, the emails, the file with both our names on the founding doc before you changed it." More whispers. "Anyone who wants to verify it can check. I've kept the receipts." Connor's face turned pale. He stepped forward, trying to grab the mic, but another voice cut through the tension. A man near the front row stood up. Tall, silver-haired, calm. "I'd like to see those documents," he said. "I'm one of the investors." The room went dead quiet. Connor tried to speak, but the man ignored him. He walked up to me, offered his hand. "I'm Jordan Blackwell," he said, "and I don't invest in thieves. People say the internet never sleeps. That night, I learned what it meant. By the time I got home, my name was already on 2 startup forums and a viral thread titled, 'Did Luxonic steal its code?' I hadn't even posted anything yet. Someone at the party had filmed my confrontation with Connor and uploaded it. One shaky, 3-minute video, but the audio was clear. My voice, my receipts, Jordan Blackwell's line, "I don't invest in thieves." By morning, it had nearly 400,000 views, and Connor's PR nightmare had just begun. I didn't sleep, not because of fear. I was too wired for that. Emails poured into my inbox, some angry, some curious, and more than a few supportive developers, journalists, even a few people from our old university. A guy named Amir messaged me. "Hey Mason, I remember you demoing the early version of Luxonic at the student showcase in 18. Glad you're getting your credit now." That one hit me. I hadn't felt seen in years, but not everyone was happy. By 9 a.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was my mother. "Mason, this has gone far enough. You've embarrassed your brother and our family. Please, take it down. Take what down?" The truth. Then came the legal threats. Emails from Luxonic's in-house lawyer started rolling in. Defamation, breach of confidentiality, violation of NDA. Except I never signed an NDA, and I still had the email from Connor dated before the incorporation where he called me his co-founder and promised a 30% stake after funding. I forwarded it to a journalist who'd reached out, not because I wanted to ruin Connor, but because I wasn't going to let him erase me again. A day later, Techloop published an article. Luxonic's shaky launch. Did the CEO steal the code? The piece was measured, but the damage was done. They included quotes from the video, the early prototype screenshots I had, and even a short statement from Jordan Blackwell. The situation deserves scrutiny. We stand by ethical innovation, and we're reevaluating our position. By the end of the week, 3 other investors had paused their funding rounds. Connor called, not texted, not emailed, called. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. Mason, he said, his voice low, we need to talk. I think we already did, I replied. No, listen, he sounded stressed. It got out of control. I didn't expect you to show up. So I was just supposed to let it slide, I said. You turned our work into your empire and cut me out, then mocked me in front of a crowd. He was quiet for a moment. I messed up, he admitted, but if you keep pushing this, it's going to hurt everyone, not just me, Mom, Dad, the team. The team? I'm not the one who needs to stop. I said, you are. He sighed. Then, like a switch flipped, his voice changed. You want money? Fine, we'll negotiate. Just do it quietly. I hung up. That night, I got a call from Jordan Blackwell. This time, I answered on the first ring. Mason, he said, I've seen the documents. I've also spoken with others who worked on Luxonic's early days. I held my breath. I believe you. That moment hit me harder than the confrontation. Not because I needed validation, but because someone in power finally said it out loud. We met in person a few days later. He didn't offer me hush money. He didn't ask me to sue Connor. He just sat with me, listened, and asked, "What do you want?" I didn't have an answer. For so long, all I wanted was to be recognized, to have someone say, "You matter, your work matters." But now, with the spotlight turned back toward me, I realized something. I didn't want to just take credit for a broken past. I wanted to build something new, so I started coding again. Not to prove anything, but because it was mine. I dusted off old ideas, sharpened what I'd learned, and started sketching something small but powerful, something focused on ethics, first AI integration for small businesses. Jordan didn't invest in me yet, but he did introduce me to someone who believed in what I was building. Her name was Nina. She was a former Luxonic engineer who quit 6 months ago. Frustrated by Connor's leadership, she reached out after reading the article. You weren't the only one he erased, she said. Want help building something better? We met for coffee. One coffee turned into daily stand-ups. Just like that, I had a co-founder. Meanwhile, Connor's world was cracking. The press kept digging. Tech reporters uncovered discrepancies in timelines, credit disputes, and ex-employees backing my side of the story. My mom called again. I didn't pick up. My dad sent me a short text. I'm proud of you. Wish I'd said it sooner. That one made me sit down for a minute. 2 weeks later, Luxonic delayed its rollout. They cited internal reorganization, but the truth was obvious. Connor tried to pivot fast, launch a version 2 rebrand, shift the narrative. But when trust is broken, branding won't fix it. One night, I stood on my apartment balcony. The city lights looked different than they did that night on Connor's rooftop. This wasn't ambition I couldn't reach. This was a future I was building, not to spite anyone, not to prove anyone wrong, but because I finally believed in myself, Starting over is harder when everyone's watching. After the Luxonic fallout, I wasn't just the brother who spoke out, I was the whistleblower guy, which made building something new feel twice as risky. Investors were curious but hesitant. Friends from the dev world reached out, some supportive, some just fishing for gossip. And through it all, Nina and I were racing to build our prototype before someone else beat us to it. We called it Vera, short for Veritas. Truth, Vera wasn't flashy. It didn't promise to disrupt the world. What it did was simple help small businesses integrate AI tools without selling their customer data or black boxing the results. That was our whole pitch. Honest tech, built right. We weren't trying to be the next Luxonic. We were trying to be something better. We coded in my apartment, slept odd hours, shared meals of Thai takeout and half-melted grocery store burritos. It felt like the early days again, like when I used to build with Connor only without the secrets. Nina and I didn't always agree, but we never hid things. We had a whiteboard covered in crossed-out ideas, sticky notes with wild possibilities, and one rule written in permanent marker: no shortcuts. 2 months in, we had a working prototype. It wasn't perfect, but it ran. A small accounting firm in Portland let us pilot Vera with their internal workflows. The feedback was glowing. This actually works. Faster than the tools we've been paying thousands for. Doesn't feel creepy. It was the validation we needed. Then the article dropped. Former Luxonic engineer and whistleblower launch AI startup. Is it just a revenge play? It hit just before we sent our pitch deck to early investors, and it stung. The piece wasn't malicious, but the angle messy. They framed Vera as an emotional response to what happened with Connor, as if we were driven by spite, not vision. They called Nina a disgruntled former employee. They called me the overlooked sibling with a grudge. We didn't lose investors, but nobody responded for a week. What now? Nina asked that Friday. I stared at our inbox. Empty. Ignore it, I said. Build anyway. And we did. We added new features, cleaned the UI, scaled the back end, but the whispers followed us. Reddit threads speculated that we were copying Luxonic. A tech influencer tweeted, "Be honest, would this startup exist if the brother hadn't been cut out?" As if that made the work less real. Then came the shock. One morning, Nina stormed into my apartment holding her phone. You won't believe this. It was a leak. Luxonic had just announced a new feature, one that looked almost exactly like Vera's pilot model. Same logic flow, similar UI, even the name Veris. It was too close. And too fast. Someone had stolen our code. Panic hit me like ice. Had I left something exposed? Was our GitHub too public? But our repos were private, secure, two-factor authentication, shared only between Nina and me. That's when the real fear set in. There was only one other person who'd seen everything, someone we'd brought on just weeks ago to help with back-end architecture. Zaid, he was a sharp dev Nina had worked with before, quiet, efficient. We'd onboarded him fast because we were drowning in feature requests. He'd signed an NDA, but he'd also worked at Luxonic before quitting in the early days. And now, he was gone. Email bounced, phone disconnected, LinkedIn scrubbed. Just gone. Nina stared at the screen, her voice flat. I vouched for him. I didn't blame her, but the hurt in her eyes cut deep. We'd been building something sacred. And someone had treated it like just another product to sell. For 3 days, I barely slept. I wrote out every line of code again, checked every log, built a timeline of every meeting Zaid had attended. Then I found it. A commit he'd made, buried deep hidden in a branch we weren't using for production. A clever obfuscation, like he wanted plausible deniability. But the signature was his, and it matched the exact logic of what Luxonic had launched. I compiled everything, every version history, every timestamp, the emails, the changelogs. I wrote a blog post titled, "We built Vera, and this is how it was stolen." We didn't blame Luxonic directly. We just showed the receipts, the timeline, the overlap, the source code snapshots. The post went live at midnight. By noon, it had 600,000 views. This time, the press came to us, but the tone was different. Now we weren't bitter siblings or jaded engineers. We were builders under attack. The sympathy we'd never expected came flooding in founders, developers, lawyers. A few offered to help. Even Jordan Blackwell called again. "This is becoming a pattern with Luxonic," he said grimly. "Are you going to pursue legal action?" I thought about it. Thought about the sleepless nights, the trust broken, the second time I'd been burned for trying to build something real. I asked Nina what she wanted. She looked tired, but clear-eyed. "Let's finish Vera," she said. "Let's show them what integrity looks like." So that's what we did. We polished the beta, launched a waitlist. 1 week later, 3,000 people signed up. Not just out of sympathy, but because the product actually worked. We were back on track. Not because we were louder, but because we were better. And this time, nobody was going to steal it from us. When the offer came, I didn't believe it at first. It wasn't from Luxonic. It was from one of their partners, a massive data infrastructure firm that had backed Connor from the beginning. Their name was never in the headlines, but their money was everywhere. A sleek PDF proposal landed in our inbox with a subject line that read, "Strategic Acquisition Opportunity Vera AI Translation." They wanted to buy us. I scrolled past the intro paragraphs, the corporate flattery, and landed on the number. $7.8 million. Nina and I stared at it in silence. She was the first to speak. "Is this hush money?" I nodded. It had all the signs. They were willing to pay us a life-changing amount, but wanted full rights. No credit, no continued role, just a clean handover. And buried in the legal jargon was one key clause: no public statements related to the Luxonic incident, past or future. So this was it. A bribe, a fancy, polished, legal bribe. "Do we even consider it?" Nina asked, not blinking. I thought of all the late nights, the lines of code, the betrayal, the rebuilding, the people who had emailed us after our launch users who finally felt like they had a trustworthy tool. "Do you want to?" I asked. She didn't answer, but I already knew. We rejected the offer the next morning. Politely, professionally, but firmly. Vera is not for sale at this time. We remain focused on building a transparent, community-driven platform. We didn't say the real part. That no amount of money was worth giving our story away again. The media got wind of the offer somehow. A tech blogger leaked it, calling us the startup that turned down millions to keep their ethics. Suddenly, we weren't just the victims of IP theft. We were something more, founders with a spine. Investor interest exploded overnight. Only this time, we controlled the narrative. Nina and I set strict terms. No advisor seats without contribution. No influence over messaging. No dilution of our core mission: build ethical tech, or don't build it at all. It felt surreal, having power in rooms we were once excluded from. I thought of Connor, how he used to dominate conversations, twist facts, smile his way through lies. We weren't doing that. We were just real. And for once, that was enough. Luxonic, meanwhile, was imploding. Not all at once, but slowly, publicly. Whistleblower reports surfaced. 3 former engineers published a joint statement outlining a toxic culture of credit theft, manipulation, and retaliation. And then it happened. Connor stepped down. The announcement was brief, sanitized. Connor Elliott has decided to pursue other opportunities outside of Luxonic. He disappeared from social media, went dark, no more launch parties, no more magazine interviews. A week later, I got an email, no subject, just one line of text. I'm sorry, it was from Connor's old address. No explanation, no follow-up. I stared at it for a long time. Then deleted it. Some apologies come too late to matter. Life didn't magically become easy after that. We still had bugs, server costs, moments of burnout, investors with opinions we didn't ask for. But we had something else too, a product that mattered. Vera officially launched in the fall. Our first users were small business owners, bookkeepers, teachers, family-run restaurants. They didn't care about the tech drama. They just cared that Vera worked. Fast, honest, clear, and we listened to them. Every feedback form, every bug report, every thank you email, we answered, improved, built alongside them. 6 months later, we hit our first major milestone, 10,000 active users. We weren't unicorns. But we were real, and we were growing. Nina and I took a night off. We sat on the roof of my apartment building, legs swinging over the ledge, watching Seattle glow in the distance. You ever think about what would have happened if we'd sold, she asked. Sometimes, I said, and we'd have money, maybe peace, but not this. She smiled. I like this better. I did too, because this was ours. I think back to the rooftop that started it all. Connor's party. The smirks, the applause, the betrayal. I used to replay it like a scar I couldn't stop picking at. But now, it feels like a story that happened to someone else, because I'm not the guy who got cut out anymore. I'm not the quiet one, or the failure, or the cautionary tale. I'm Mason, the builder, the founder, and I didn't just survive the storm. I learned how to build in the rain. Story 3, I always thought betrayal would come like thunder. Loud, explosive, dramatic, but it didn't. It came on a quiet Thursday morning, just me, a cup of coffee, and a single venomous text message. Don't come to my retirement party. You're a joke. Noah, we're done with you. No greeting, no signature, just that. My dad's final word to me. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to turn into a prank. Some glitch, but it didn't. Seconds later, another message popped up, from my older sister. Finally, some peace around here. And then from my younger brother, Declan. Image. A photo of a trash bin labeled Noah's career. The group chat, the one we used for birthdays and holidays, had just turned into my public execution. Let me back up a second. I'm Noah Wells, 34, a freelance brand designer living in Asheville, North Carolina, married to Maris, the kindest woman alive, and dad to 2 amazing kids, Max, 6, and Isla, 4. My family, they run Wells & Company, a chain of furniture showrooms across the Southeast. Polished, profitable, picture perfect. Me, I didn't want the showroom life. I chose passion over profit. Design, logos, fonts, visual storytelling, stuff that made me feel something. To them, that choice made me the black sheep. I've been their disappointment for years. Not in open fights, but in passive digs at dinners. The when are you going to get a real job? Jabs. The how's the hobby going? Smirks. I still helped them, designed all their branding, redesigned their showroom catalogs for free. Hoping, maybe, I'd earn a little recognition. A thanks, Noah. Instead, I got laughed at, dismissed. But this text, this was different. It wasn't a dig. It was exile. Maris found me an hour later, still on the couch, coffee cold in my hands. I showed her the messages. She didn't say I told you so, even though she warned me for years that their love had strings attached. She just sat beside me and whispered, "You didn't deserve that." My hands were shaking, not with sadness, no, with clarity. They'd written me off, fine. I'd write them out of my life too. The first thing I did, canceled the digital invitation I spent 2 weeks building for my dad's retirement gala. Then I deleted the design files, banners, monograms, ads, all their custom assets I had handcrafted, unpaid. Years of work, gone in minutes, petty maybe. But it felt like tearing off shackles I didn't realize I was still wearing. They kept texting. Amber, childish move. Declan, you never belonged anyway. But for once, I didn't feel weak. I felt free. That night, I sat in our small home office while Max and Isla slept down the hall. I opened my dusty personal site, barely updated, a digital ghost town. Then I called Eva, my best friend from college and a marketing genius. I'm done being ignored. I told her, I want to build something real, and I want people to see it. She didn't hesitate. We got to work. Within 2 weeks, we'd launched a bold new portfolio, clean, smart, unapologetic. I posted my work online, ran targeted ads, took on clients I used to think were out of reach. By the end of the month, I'd landed 3 new clients, including a national coffee brand and a startup that paid me more for one campaign than my dad ever gave me. For the first time in years, my work felt real. And it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclamation. But then, I slipped it. Late one night, still buzzed from my latest client win, I posted something stupid. I blurred names and faces, but I shared a screenshot of the group chat on a local designer forum. Captioned it. Imagine being disowned over fonts and furniture. It blew up. Reddit got hold of it, so did Twitter. Within 24 hours, someone recognized the family business from my old portfolio. The internet pounced. Wells & Company, where creativity goes to die. Bloggers ran with it. Reviews tanked. Their public image shattered. I didn't laugh. It wasn't funny, because that wasn't the point. I didn't want to destroy them, just break free. But I had lit a match, and now the whole forest was burning. Maris sat beside me the next morning, her eyes scanning the fallout. "You okay?" she asked. "I thought I'd feel good," I whispered, "but I don't." She squeezed my hand. "You didn't start this, Noah. They did. And now, they're just facing the truth. Still, the guilt crept in." A few days later, my mom texted, for the first time in months, "Noah, please, can we talk? This hurts all of us." I stared at the message. The same woman who watched my father call me a joke. The same woman who said nothing when they mocked my work in front of cousins and clients. Now she wanted peace. I didn't reply. But I didn't block her either, because some part of me, however bruised, still wanted to believe family could be more than blood and betrayal. That night, as rain tapped the windows of our Asheville home, I pulled up a listing. A place outside Charleston, quiet, wooded. Big enough for the kids to run, bright enough for my ideas to breathe. I turned to Maris and said, "I think it's time we left for good." She looked at me and smiled. "Not sad, just certain fresh starts sound clean, but they're never quiet. Especially when your dirty laundry's been hung out for the internet to see." A week after that post blew up, we packed our things and left Asheville behind. The morning we pulled out of the driveway, Max asked, "Are we running away?" I smiled in the rearview mirror and said, "No, buddy, we're running towards something better." Maris squeezed my hand. Charleston was waiting. We moved into a fixer-upper near the coast. Nothing glamorous, just 3 bedrooms, cracked tiles, and a view of wild trees and salt air, but it felt like oxygen. Max and Isla took to the backyard like they'd been set free. Maris picked wildflowers from the fence line and made bouquets for the table. And me. I turned the garage into a design studio, painted the walls, set up new lighting, framed prints of my best work. For the first time in years, I had a space that felt mine, not borrowed, not tolerated. Mine. Ava called every other day. She helped me push my new brand harder, more curated posts, better ad targeting, even a mini newsletter. The Noah from Nowhere identity started to catch on. People liked the underdog story. Clients kept coming. Boutiques, small restaurants, a local wellness startup that hired me for a full rebrand. I was booked out 3 months in advance. The inbox that used to sit empty was now alive with offers. And every time I sent a client draft, I felt like I was stitching a wound shut. But just when I thought I'd finally outrun the storm, it found me again. On a Tuesday afternoon, I opened Instagram and my stomach dropped. My dad's face, staring out from a post. A small business tragedy. How cancel culture destroyed our family brand. The post was from a viral account that specialized in dramatic business comebacks. They framed it like a redemption story. The angle, that my ungrateful outburst and revenge post had tanked my own father's business. He was suddenly the victim. I stared at the screen, my hands turning to fists. This man who called me a joke, deleted me from his life, let my siblings humiliate me in front of relatives, was now begging for public sympathy. He painted me as unstable. He said I emotionally manipulated people, that I had ruined his legacy with a single tweet. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I turned off my phone, walked outside, and stood in the middle of our yard while Max sprayed water from a garden hose, laughing. This was my legacy. Just not some fancy showroom. Not a brand built on appearances. My family. This life. Still, the post spread. Comments poured in. Some people defended him. Others dug deeper and shared screenshots of the original chat I'd posted. The truth was there, but so was the spin. That night, my sister Amber texted me. Enjoying your little pity tour. You've always been dramatic. I blocked her. Then Declan messaged me from a new number. You're killing Mom. She's crying every day. I didn't respond, because I remembered how she said nothing when they laughed at my career. Now that the internet was turning its attention, suddenly, I mattered. No, Maris found me pacing at 2 a.m., eyes red, jaw tight. Talk to me, she said softly. I told her everything, the post, the DMs, the guilt inching back in. She sat me down and looked me straight in the eyes. You didn't destroy anything. Noah, they chose how they treated you. They wrote you off. You just stopped pretending. Her words hit like a truth I didn't know I needed. I don't want to become like them. I said. You're not, she replied, but you're allowed to protect yourself. The next day, I got an unexpected call. It was from Tom Rivers, a small-time journalist who ran a newsletter about independent businesses in the South. I'd like to hear your side, he said. I hesitated, but then I agreed. We met at a cafe. I told him everything, my designs, the free work, the group chat, the viral mess. Tom asked smart questions, never push for drama. Just truth. A week later, his piece went live. The designer who walked away, one man's story of family, freedom, and fighting back. It didn't go viral. But it resonated. And more importantly, it recentered the narrative. Emails started trickling in, other designers who felt used. People who saw their families prioritize legacy over love. A mother of 2 wrote, Your story reminded me that I'm allowed to choose peace, even if it means cutting ties. That message broke me. In a good way, it reminded me that even pain, when told honestly, can become a kind of healing. A month later, I got an unexpected package. It was from my cousin Theo. He was always quiet at family gatherings, a bit of an outsider, like me. Inside the box, a framed sketch I drew when I was 10. My first logo design, a fake coffee shop with my name on it. He wrote, "You gave me the courage to quit the showroom and start my own thing. I kept this all these years. Thought it should go back to you." I cried. Not from sadness, from being seen. By fall, we'd found our rhythm. Max started soccer. Isla took to painting and covered our walls in color. Maris launched a blog about coastal living, and it took off faster than she expected. And me, I signed my biggest contract yet. A regional campaign with a growing brand that once passed me over because I wasn't corporate enough. Now, they wanted my voice, my style. They wanted me. My dad's business never recovered, but I stopped checking the news. Because Charleston was full of color, movement, and life, and I wasn't running anymore. I was growing. By December, Charleston felt like home. I had my office just the way I liked it, plants by the window, sketch pads on the desk, and framed art from Isla on the wall. Work was steady, not just steady thriving. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Max had made friends on his soccer team. Maris had found a community through her blog. Even our dog, Toby, had stopped barking at the neighbors. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was performing. I was just living. Then the email came. Subject line: Wells and Company, let's talk. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. It was from Clarence, the company's brand advisor, which basically meant the guy Dad hired to clean up the mess after the business started bleeding. His message was polite, professional. "We're looking to rebuild the brand. The family would like to invite you to be part of the process." They wanted me back. The son they threw out. The joke, the embarrassment. Suddenly, I was needed. I didn't answer at first. I let the message rot in my inbox while I mulled it over like spoiled milk, but Clarence followed up. This time, with numbers. "We'd like to offer you creative control over the new Wells & Company identity. Full rebrand, $90,000 contract, plus royalties on licensing." $90,000. My jaw clenched as I read the figure. That money could change things. It could pay off debt, put aside savings, upgrade Isla's art setup and Max's after-school programs, give Maris the writing retreat she always dreamed of. But I also knew what came attached to that check: a leash and a script. That night, Maris and I sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket against the coastal chill. I read her the offer. She said nothing for a while. "Then it's a lot of money, I know. But it's them." I nodded. She looked me in the eyes, gentle but firm. "What do you want, Noah?" And I had no answer, because a part of me still wanted to be asked. To be seen, to be brought in, not because I was useful, but because I was worth it. But this wasn't that. This was business. The next day, a handwritten letter showed up, from my mother. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. It started stiff. "Noah, I hope Charleston has been good to you. The kids look healthy. Maris looks strong. You've done well for yourself." Then it veered into what I expected. "Your father's health isn't what it used to be. This company is his legacy, and you're still part of it, even if you've forgotten." And then the closer: "Maybe this is your chance to come home." I folded the letter slowly, let the words settle. Then I put it in a drawer I hadn't opened since the move. The one labeled Things I'm Done Needing. But the truth is, I wasn't done. Not completely. And they knew it. 2 weeks later, Clarence requested a video call. I agreed against my better judgment. He came on screen in a crisp shirt, all smiles and strategy. "Look, Noah," he said, "I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Your post last year hurt the brand, but people know you now. You've got a following, influence, and that's something we're willing to pay for." I stared at him. "So, you want me to fix what you broke?" He smiled. "We want to move forward, together." But that word "together" sounded like a lie in his mouth. Still, I couldn't sleep that night. Because even if my brain said no, my heart whispered, what if this was how I changed them? What if this was how I healed? I spent hours pacing, scrolling through old photos of the kids, rewatching videos of Isla showing me her crayon logos, Max narrating backyard soccer goals like a World Cup match. Then I opened that drawer again, took out Mom's letter, read it a second time, and realized something. She never said she was sorry, not once. She mentioned health, legacy, expectations, but never regret, never remorse. Just pressure wrapped in concern, and I finally saw it clearly. They didn't want me back, they wanted what I'd become. So I wrote back, not to Clarence. To my parents, short, simple, final. I'm not coming back, not for money, not for legacy. I have everything I need and none of it came from you. Then I deleted the email from Clarence and archived the contract offer. And for the first time in months, I felt lighter. The world kept turning, and with the new year came new beginnings. I launched my own design workshop and online course to teach branding to young creatives. People signed up fast. My story had spread farther than I realized. They weren't just curious about my logos. They wanted to know how to build something real, even when the people closest to you try to tear it down. One night, during a Zoom class, a student asked me, "How did you handle being cut off by your own family?" I paused. Then said, I stopped trying to belong to people who didn't want me and started building something they couldn't take away. The chat lit up, and something inside me healed a little more. Still, there were moments, random ones. Like when Isla drew a family tree in school and asked if she should include Grandma and Grandpa. I didn't know what to say. Maris took my hand and answered for both of us. "Only if you want to, sweetheart." And just like that, we gave our daughter what I never had, a choice. By spring, I got a letter in the mail again, but this time, it was from Amber. Inside, just 5 words. Scrawled in messy pen, "I'm sorry, you were right." No return address, no explanation. Just a crack in the armor, but I didn't reply. Because I'd stopped looking for apologies that came too late. Instead, I kept moving. Built a garden with Max. Watched Isla paint a mural on our fence. Held Maris close while the porch light flickered behind us. And one quiet morning, as the breeze rustled through the trees and a cardinal landed on the railing, I realized something simple. Beautiful. True. I didn't need them anymore, because I had already built the life they told me I'd never have. And it was better than anything they could have offered. It started with a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was a quiet Sunday morning in late spring. Maris was in the kitchen humming to herself. Max and Isla were still in pajamas, arguing over which cartoon to watch. When I opened the door, time seemed to warp. There they were. My parents, standing on our porch. Looking smaller than I remembered. My mother clutched a tote bag. My father held his cane in one hand, a folded newspaper in the other. His eyes, once sharp, looked tired. She opened her mouth first. Noah, we didn't come to argue. I didn't answer. Just stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and waited. They looked out of place here. Among the chirping birds and scent of coastal pine, like ghosts from a life I'd already buried. My dad cleared his throat. Your mother wanted to come. I wasn't sure, but I don't need the setup. I cut in, just say what you came to say. They exchanged a glance. My mother finally spoke. We know we hurt you, and I wish we had handled things differently, especially your father. He shifted uncomfortably, but didn't deny it. She continued, we lost so much when we lost you. I studied her face. Gio, there were lines I hadn't noticed before, not just from age, from consequence. Why now, I asked. She looked down at her shoes. Because we saw what you built, and we realized we were wrong. That word wrong was one I never thought I'd hear from her. But still, I didn't soften, because I'd learned something since I left. Forgiveness isn't owed, it's earned. I nodded slowly. I appreciate you saying that. I said, I really do, but I'm not the same person you walked away from. My dad finally looked up. His voice cracked. You were right about the business, about all of it. I held on too tightly, to control, to pride. I thought if I gave in, it meant I failed. You did fail, I said, calmly, not as a businessman, as a father. He didn't flinch. Maybe he'd already accepted it. We're not here to ask for a second chance, he said. We just wanted to see you, and the kids. At that, I stiffened. Isla's laugh echoed inside the house. Max thudded down the hallway in socks. My instinct was to say no. But Maris opened the door just then, catching the moment. She looked at me, question in her eyes. I gave a small nod, just this once. We sat outside, no shouting, no accusations. Just space, distance, awkward silences between stories. My mother gave Isla a bracelet, Max a vintage compass that had belonged to my grandfather. They accepted the gifts with polite confusion, sensing the tension even if they didn't understand it. When they left, my mom hugged me. Not tight, not lingering, just a quiet, almost frightened gesture. My dad didn't hug me, but as he stepped down the porch, he looked back and said, You did good, Noah, you built something real. And for once, I believed he meant it. I didn't cry when they left, didn't feel triumphant either. What I felt was peace, not from reconciliation. From resolution, because I didn't need their apology anymore. I had outgrown their approval. Summer arrived like a wave. Warmth, green everywhere, our house full of life. My branding course hit its 1000th student. I launched a mentorship program for underserved creatives. We held a block party in July music, art booths, kids with sticky fingers and popsicles. Maris laughed beside me as Isla painted faces and Max led a mini soccer tournament in the cul-de-sac. Eva flew in and hugged me like a brother. You made it, she whispered. Told you, I smiled. But not because I'd made it, because I'd made it mine. Later that month, something unexpected happened. I got an invitation. A letter. This time, not from my family, but from the Charleston Arts Council. They were honoring me with a small local award, Creative Citizen of the Year, for my contributions to youth programs and community branding work. I laughed when I read it. A guy once mocked in a group chat as a dumpster fire designer was now being honored for impact. I almost declined. But Maris stopped me. This isn't about pride, she said. It's about showing up for what you've built. So I accepted. The night of the ceremony, I stood behind the mic. Room full of strangers, friends, clients, neighbors. I looked out over the crowd and paused. Then I told them what I never thought I'd say out loud. I used to think family was something you were born into, but now I believe it's something you build, and you don't build it with blood. You build it with love, with honesty, with showing up again and again, even when it's hard. This community gave me more family than my last name ever did, and I'll spend the rest of my life giving it back. The applause was warm, real. I looked over at Maris, Isla, Max beaming, and for the first time in years, I wasn't proving anything. I was just present. Whole. Weeks later, I got one last letter. From Declan. It wasn't cruel. Not sarcastic, but yeah, just a simple confession. I envied you, that you chose your own path. I couldn't do it. Maybe I still can't. But watching you made me think maybe I could. He didn't ask for forgiveness. Didn't blame me, just shared truth. And I didn't reply, because sometimes letting someone speak is all you owe. Now, our lives aren't perfect. The kids fight over cereal. I still forget to water the garden. Maris has late nights editing blog drafts, and I lose hours tweaking logo designs no one else notices. But our house is filled with color, music, laughter. Max built a wooden sign for the front porch. Home is where you're heard. Isla added paint splatters and a crooked sun. It's beautiful and real and exactly what I always wanted. Legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you build from scratch. Messy, slow, honest. And if you're lucky, you build it beside people who see your worth even when you're at your lowest. To the family who threw me out, you gave me pain. But also the fire, the will to shape something better. So thank you for freeing me. Now, I'll raise my children with the love you never gave me. And I'll live a life that makes them proud, not because I fought you, but because I finally stopped needing to.